Food and Drug Administration, and I know everyone is anxious to hear you based on all of the questions. But I wanted to say one thing before you take podium. I just wanted to thank you for your leadership. I know I go to a lot of conferences and public events where Dr. Mark speaks, and I've worked with a lot of folks in federal service for many years, more years than I would like to mention. But your dedication to public service and your willingness to listen, I don't know. I mean, Dr. Marks is always listening and learning and collaborating, and I just feel like we're in good hands with you at the helm. So thank you. I wanted to say that.
That's very, very kind. I'm gonna, just so you know, I'm gonna skip a couple slides. You're more than welcome to the slides. I just, knowing that time is late, I want to try to get through the key things I wanted to say. And kind of the bottom line here up front for me is that, at FDA, we're very committed to advancing the development of cellular therapies. We want them to be safe and effective, to meet unmet medical needs, because there are a tremendous number of unmet medical needs. We've heard about some of them already today, and that's just a few of them. And we're going to accomplish that, I think, by encouraging sponsor interactions with the agency, something I think we've already heard of that's important. Using all of the applicable development programs that authorities that Congress has given us, and also then by taking appropriate action to protect patients as we need to. Ultimately, I think, if we're realistic here, the way these therapies are actually going to become widely used and effective for things is if they essentially enter the mainstream. And the only way they're going to enter the mainstream if they're held to the same standards that other medical products are held to. That's what's going to have to happen here. The reason why, I think, one of the questions some may have is how did we end up in this place where we have a bunch of clinics that are not actually within the regulations? Well, one of the ways that happens is because we have two regulatory tiers that apply to cells and tissues. The idea of this in the first place was to try to have a regulatory system that actually was fit for purpose. There were some products like skin grafts, bone grafts, where safety and efficacy, provided one takes care of making sure infectious diseases are not transmitted, was assumed. If you take skin and put it on skin, seems like a reasonable thing, shouldn't be a problem. Bone grafts, same type of thing. And so there was a lower set of standard that was set for those products, so they didn't require pre-market authorization. However, things that actually required significant manufacture or were used for a different purpose in the recipient than the donor, those required a higher level of regulation, such as needing a biologics license application or some other pre-market application. So this is, I think, what has set this up. There are actors out there that are saying, well, we are in a place that we don't need to come in for an investigation of new drug application or biologics license application, but we're registered, we have a registered facility with the FDA. It doesn't matter whether you're registered with us or not. If you have an application that needs to have an investigation of new drug application and biologics license application, that's what needs to happen. We've put out a suite of guidance documents to try to clarify these regulations. It is, I think, as Mr. Oliver noted, it is a little bit daunting for people who are not familiar with this. We recognize that was precisely, I don't have to, he saved me some time. Thank you for saying it earlier. That's why we have something like the TRG Rapid Information Program, because we want people to be able to get information to figure out if their product requires an investigation of the drug application or not. We also want people to know how they can work with the agency to move development ahead. And that's why we have some guidance that we put out on the programs that can be used to advance regenerative medicine product development. One of the guidances reviews our expedited programs for regenerative medicine therapies. This reviews how the agency is applying the 21st Century Cures Act regenerative medicine advanced therapy provisions. This designation allows products to get all of the benefits of breakthrough therapy designation. That was put in place in 2012. And it also was kind of tailored to regenerative medicine products. To get this designation, one simply has to have some preliminary evidence that it can meet an unmet medical need, the product can meet an unmet medical need. And one of the advantages of getting it, besides the breakthrough designation type benefits, is that if one gets an accelerated approval based on some endpoint that's reasonably likely to predict clinical benefit, one can get the full approval on the basis of submitting the confirmatory evidence that could be just a relook at the initial endpoint, could be data from real world evidence. So it's a nice expanded, a little bit of an expansion on our traditional accelerated approval provisions. This has actually been something that people have taken advantage of in terms of coming in for asking for the designation. We've had 115 requests to date. We've granted 44 of these requests. This is roughly in line with the number of breakthrough therapy designation. It's kind of in the same order of magnitude. Some of these get denied because the data is not compelling. Some of them get denied because the process by which the product is being manufactured isn't clear to us. But we're excited about these. These are mostly cellular therapies. Some are cell-based gene therapies. And more than half of them are for orphan indications, rare diseases. We also have a program which is designed to try to help people come in and understand how they can most efficiently develop products. This is besides, first of all, you have to figure out whether you need to come into the agency or not. That's what the TRG Rapid Information Program is for. And then once you've determined that you have to come in, this is a program where before you even submit any kind of formal regulatory submission, you can have an informal regulatory interaction with the agency to talk about preclinical development, how you might go about manufacturing, or even how your clinical development program might go. And it doesn't require a very formal regulatory submission. It requires plain English for a page or two or three and some questions. And we're really encouraging people to use this. So just to summarize, we're very committed here to helping people move this area forward. I think it's a tremendously exciting area. It will only come to benefit people to the extent that we put rigor into the science that we develop these products with. So with that, I will stop, and then we'll have a little time, I hope.
Thank you, Dr. Marks. I'd like to ask the other panelists to come up. I know we're near the end, but maybe we could start with questions for Dr. Marks because he has to leave right away. So there's a gentleman with a mic who will come find you. Where is the gentleman? Right here.
So for RMAT designation applications, so I have one question. So you said you need some clinical evidences. So we know there are lots of preclinical evidences for that, but how to get FDA without trial? Like, do you want to say IRB mediated some trial through institutions for something clinical evidences for RMAT designation application?
Yeah. So in general, the way one would have to get an RMAT designation is one would have an investigational new drug application, and once you have some phase 1 data, if that phase 1 data is promising, then you can bring it into us. But you would have to do a clinical trial under the auspices of an ethics committee to get the data. It's deliberately not preclinical data because anybody who's ever done work in the preclinical space knows that mice, rats, rabbits, you can cure a lot of things in those animals that when you put them into humans, you don't know. So the whole point of getting this designation is these are products that once the product gets this designation, it means I actually know about the product. So that means senior leadership at the agency is putting brain power into this. So there has to be some evidence that this is going to actually benefit people. Otherwise, it's a waste of taxpayers' money. If I knew about every animal experiment in the United States, that might not be such a helpful thing.
Other questions for any of our panelists? And please limit to questions I think, at this point, for Dr. Patterson or any, why don't we, question?
Yeah, Dr. Yoo from the American Academy of Stem Cell Physicians. So for Peter, should we recommend that clinicians who are using these allogeneic products, let's say that you have a clinician using Wharton's jelly for osteoarthritis of the knee, if they are not participating in an IRB or IND study, should they cease operations and doing that procedure until they are in an official study, or follow the guidelines, homologous use, no systemic effect, until they're in study?
Yeah, I would say that what we've been trying to tell people is that unless they are clearly, they're clearly using a product that falls into the 361 tissue space, that is one that does not require pre-market authorization, they should be not doing anything until they're doing it under an IND-enabled, IRB-approved clinical study.
This gentleman over here, I know you've been patient, sorry about that.
Thank you. I wish I heard that from my wife. My name is Hank Donahue. I'm from Virginia Commonwealth University. And I'm wondering if anybody on the panel, especially the cell therapy group that was first on, would like to speak to the potential for mobilizing endogenous stem cells, which might be effective in a subset of, wouldn't be effective for everything, in a subset of diseases or disorders, but would also have a lower regulatory hurdle.
So, Joanne, I'll take a stab at that. There have been groups that have attempted to look at that in cardiology and a few other conditions, but most of the time it's working in animals, but when you take it into people, it is not working. And even in the animals, you have to anticipate the bad event and mobilize before it happens to really see the effect. And of course, in people, that's not the way it's going to go. So I think so far, there's not compelling data, at least in cardiology, stroke, et cetera, to say this is going to be effective.
Thank you very much. Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Yeah, so what about the role of differential rehabilitation after different cellular therapies? Is that considered in this space? In other words, you treat somebody with bad back with exogenous stem cells, but their rehabilitation might be different than if you treat them with vertebroplasty.
So there's a guy named Weiser, I'm a neurosurgeon at Rutgers, who has been doing studies using cord blood cells in patients with spinal cord injuries in China. But they're pretty rigorous studies, and in China they do this 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, intense physical therapy in these patients. And so they did a randomized trial where they looked at the physical therapy alone, plus the cell intervention, plus a few other things. And probably not surprising, the physical therapy alone was responsible for a lot of the improvement. But it was literally 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, I think for 6 months.
Can I make a quick comment on that? There's a society now for regenerative rehabilitation. Dr. Christ in University of Virginia, a neighbor of yours, is very involved with that. They have a panel at the World Stem Cell Summit. This is a really amazing thing. If we're going to be able to rehabilitate and we can measure it, it might, who knows how it might impact endpoints. So it's a new and emerging field.
Woman in the red dress. You share who you are.
I'm a parent and an advocate. There's many people here that I want to say thank you for all that you've done and you continue to do for regenerative medicine. But one of the people that you're actually missing, the group of people that you're missing, that you're also trying to protect, are the patients. And I appreciate the database that you're trying to set up. The question is, would those databases be accessible to others? Because I'll tell you, where I'm coming from as a parent who has an IT background and worked in the medical industry, I've been able to find things, but I'm the rarity. Most people have to be in a hospital center, maybe at Duke or at Stanford, to have heard what is possible and going on to be part of a trial. And so the second question I have for you, because I see some nodding, so yes, it would be available to us. Thank you, that's great. But the second question I have for you is there anything out there in addition to the bad actors that will tell us what studies are all going on at any one time. Because Dr. Kurtzberg said she had trouble finding people with their own autologous cord blood saved, that she needed a certain number of people that fit the criteria for the trial, and she has 20,000 emails right there that she's trying to work through. So here we are on the patient end saying, please, please, I volunteer, please help us with what you can. And by the way, there's tons of people around the world, when you talk about bad actors and us parents going desperately to these people with a giant centerfold of this is what I can do for you. I meet people from Australia who are coming here to California to some witch doctor who said blah, 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 because supposedly they're cheap and they can't get in a Duke. So, I mean, we are talking about regulating and protecting here, but you need to know that there's people all over the world coming here that are getting affected by these, witch doctors or whatever that are promising things. So it's beyond just people in the US who are getting affected, and it's beyond the reputation of all of your organizations here in the US that are being affected. So just wanted to bring that up in case, from our perspective, that's not being heard.
Any comments?
This is not a panacea to what you just outlined, which is a very important issue. But for at least a subset of trials that either NIH is supporting, regardless of phase, early safety studies all the way through to pivotal studies, and for many of the FDA regulated studies, those are registered in a database you're probably familiar with, clinicaltrials.gov or ct.gov. But it doesn't capture everything, and a lot of what you just described sort of falls out of the catchment for that.
And one more thing is, a lot of us parents with special needs kids, our kids don't have a diagnosis. So we're never going to fall into a study because we won't be perfect. So we always have to do sort of an expanded access thing. I have one child lucky enough to go there. But after that, if we can't provide our own cells, we don't have any choices.
Other questions? Sorry.
There you go.
I just have a comment. I am a spinal cord injury. I'm also a type 1 diabetic. I appreciate what the woman in red dress mentioned. It's kind of like the LASIK surgery. It was expensive, and everybody thought it was kind of dangerous at first, but now everybody's doing it. It's very inexpensive, and I really appreciate what everybody's doing here. And I just want to walk, and I want to overcome my, I appreciate y'all.
I want to applaud the Dr. Mars. Just a quick comment. He's handed this big responsibility that when President Obama opened the doors for everyone to excel, the good, the bad, and the ugly walking together. And now you've got to figure out who's the bad and who's ugly. And it's overwhelming, Dr. Mars, but I salute you.
Hi, my name is Dr. William J. Cole Jr. I feel like the commercial that says, the hair club for men, not just the president of America. At the end of my medical school, a girl fell asleep at the wheel, the car hit the corner at the guy at 80 miles an hour. My head hit the corner post, and I lost use of my arms. Quite literally, it melted away. I had the singing hand, and I had to try to figure out how to get that back. And many of the traditional therapies were failing, and multiple surgeries, etc. But what brought me back was actually when I had an associate who did our blood-derived, just my own, type of stem cell therapies within the actual epidural space. At the time, was off the charts, and in the facets. And I got to the point now where I can actually get any little half-millimeter spot in the body doing regenerative medicine. So I live in both worlds. His world and our world, but making that choice of to quit at that point or strive forward. I ended up at NYU with physical medicine rehab. I was very fortunate to do that because I wouldn't quit. I've already established I'm a hard hat. So It's so important people understand this really makes a difference. I'm trying to figure out how I can contribute the most, but I'm only able to do it for the people that can afford it. And that hurdle for them to jump is tremendous. So it's very difficult when you want to do the right thing, you know it works, you physically got your hands back, your life back because of it, and you're trying to help those patients everybody you can to decrease their pain, increase function without the drugs or unnecessary surgeries, and decrease the scope of the opioid epidemic, because I do pain management with the least amount of narcotics. And thank you for all of your efforts, so your home, your family.
Thank you. And Doug, Oliver, you have the last word, because I know we're over, and I know folks need to get to the airport.
Way too much pressure. Yes, very, very short. I'm all about access, as you know, and all about safety too, and fellow patients. I mean, my heart just, because I know exactly how they feel. This is a comment and a suggestion, policy-wise. Why not try to find a way to establish a few broad spectrum treatments for the rest of us? Some things that are generally safe by administration and by secondary or incidental findings. Something simpler, a little bit more broad spectrum. Maybe a platform MSC that is already under IND and has some safety data that is being injected IV, that everybody knows has other effects. I just want to put that out there because the rest of us, part of the issue with precision medicine, as wonderful and as miraculous as it is that it's precision. All kinds of money is going into these precision, beautiful therapies. Please consider the idea of safe, a couple of, like a broad spectrum antibiotic. We all know what that means. Consider an idea of broadening a few of these therapies instead of narrowing them so that patient suffering actually can be addressed for the rest of us who are never going to see money put into research for our indication.
So with that last word, on behalf of all of us, thank you. Thanks for joining us.